and welcome to Meticulous Moments. My name is Juanita Kapp. You can reach me at meticulousmacarons@gmail.com or find me on LinkedIn. Since the COVID-19 pandemic hit the globe, I've had the wonderful privilege to meet a wide array of fantastic individuals. These individuals have truly touched my life in so many positive ways. Amongst this group of people, there are authors, public speakers, life coaches, poets, leaders, and visionaries. They are the unsung heroes of our time. Therefore, I decided to start the Meticulous Moments movement out of a sense of my gratitude. It is my way of giving back to the community. Let us share and reshare their stories in an effort to build a better society. This evening we are joined by the lovely and amazing Mandy Robinson. A little bit more about Mandy. She's a Canadian Provincial Award recipient, 2015 Leading Women Building Communities Recognition Program, 2021 Multiple Sclerosis Volunteer Award recipient, a Distinguished Toastmaster. 2015, she was crowned first female ambassadorial town crier in Cobourg, Ontario, Canada. She's a women's empowerment coach. She's a professional inspirational speaker. She's an accomplished professional speechwriter, a legacy ghostwriter, an editor, a professional photographer, featured front cover Canadian National Magazine. She's a professional published poet, creating custom poems for events and ceremonies. She's a visual storyteller, an artist, a Shakespearean actress, a portrait sketch artist, a facilitator for events, and a master of ceremonies. Let's welcome Mandy Robinson.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the second session with the wonderful Mandy Robinson. Mandy, welcome back.
Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure and an honor to be here, and you look absolutely stunning tonight.
Thank you very much, and so do you. I'm always so happy to connect with you.
Same here. The energies are just so powerful because we're always smiling. Yes, we're always happy. That's not necessarily true, but we're human. But for 99% of the time, we see, feel the sunshine that's radiating through our souls, and it's beautiful.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. I want to jump into our questions this evening. You have brought us so much insight. You have really given us a lot to think about in our previous session. And my first question to you in this session would be, rather it starts with a statement. It is clear that you have a special way with words.
True.
And on that, I want to ask, is there a defining moment in your life where you just knew you wanted to write and speak?
Absolutely, there was. I'd say there have been a few over the time, but the most prominent, the most powerful, the most impacting was about 18 years ago when I ended up in a women's shelter after leaving 30 years of abuse. And I went from the police station into the women's shelter, and I was given individual counseling as well as placed in a group with 11 other victims. And these women have stayed with me ever since. Incredible human beings. I was just so humbled in their. Anyway, that group was for 11 weeks. And along the route, I found out later, the counselors told me that in each of these groups, there is always a leader. And they'd picked me out as the leader. And I didn't find this out till many, many months down the road. And one of the ladies had said to me, you should be a speaker. And I'd said, okay. She said, well, you should go to Toastmasters. And I said, Toastmasters, what do they do? She says, they speak. I said, okay, but what about? And she said, I have no idea, but you should be one. So that night, it was April the 8th. It was an ice storm here in Canada. And I never go anywhere in Canada or anywhere else in an ice storm because it's so treacherous. But something in here said, get on the phone, make some calls, find out where this club is and go. So I ended up going. And I ended up volunteering to speak on the table topics. So it's 2 minutes of improv on any subject that you want to speak on. Now, remember, I'm the guest. I've got no idea what Toastmasters is about. I don't know who these people are, where they've come from, whether they're going to accept. I didn't really care. I just wanted to be there because my instincts were saying, you need to be here. And it had come from the women's shelter through this beautiful human being. So I said, yeah, I'd love to volunteer. And all the seasoned Toastmasters were saying, no, we don't want to put you on the spot. And I said, I'm here to speak. So they said, okay.
Give me the mic.
I spoke on coloured hot air balloons because here in August in Ottawa, where it borders Quebec, the Gatineau River flows through. It's the separation between Quebec and Ottawa, Ontario. Mm-hmm. And just on the other side of the river in the Gatineau Park, so that's on the French side, they have these hot air balloons festivals, one every year in August. And they come from all over the world. And they fill the hills with all these huge, colourful, beautiful hot air balloons and hanging baskets. And you're standing there or you're in your hotel on the balcony watching it all, and it's just so magical. So this is what I spoke about for 2 minutes at the Toastmaster Club on April the 8th that night.
Wow.
And I won the Table Topics Award for Best Table Topics of the evening. And that was the turning point. That was the turning point when I knew I had found my voice. Now, remember, I'd left 30 years of abuse, and in the last 10 years of that marriage, I had been silenced. I wasn't allowed to speak, even to unless spoken to and given permission. It was dreadful. So I'd lost my confidence, my self-esteem. I was ill. I was afraid. And here I am in a women's shelter, visiting a Toastmaster club and saying, I'm here to speak.
Complete turnaround. Mandy was coming into her own. Wonderful.
Yeah, it just didn't make any sense to me, but I went with it. And as soon as I sat down from speaking, and in the break, they all came to me and they were hugging me, and these are strangers to me, and they welcomed me in like I was family. And years later, one of the ones that used to be there, one of the older ones, many, many years later, came into a bank where I was working. It was nearly Christmas. And he said, how's things going? How are you doing with Toastmasters and everything? I said, I'm doing really, really well. Gone all through the ranks. I'm competing. I'm almost at the world stage. And, you know, he reached over the counter and he just put his hands on mine. And he said, Mandy, he said, I'm tearing up here.
Oh, Mandy.
He said, Mandy, when you came into the Toastmaster Club that night and started speaking hot air balloons, he said, all of us, every single one of us in that room, there was about 30 people that night.
Wow.
Which was surprising because it was an ice storm, right? He said, when you came in and you spoke on hot air balloons, he said, every single one of us knew that you were going to become an incredible speaker and go all the way to the top. I couldn't believe, and I'm at work, right? And I'm fighting back the tears as he was saying it, as I am now. I had no idea they even felt that much towards me. I had no idea. I'm so humble. They
saw that in you. They saw that potential in you and that gift.
Yes.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yes. And that's excuse me just one second, because now my nose is running.
No, that's fine. No problem.
Is right. And that's what happened when I was 3 weeks into the women's shelter. I think I said this before, I can't remember, but I was 100 pounds heavier than I am right now. And I was very, very ill. I'd almost died many, many times, and they kept bringing me back. And I had no idea why over the years. And 3 weeks into that shelter, my counselor, I sat in her office and she said, okay, she said, I want you to hear me out, and I want you to humor me. I said, okay. And she said, I'm going to say something to you. This is always the same. The minute I cry, my nose runs. Oh.
No, it's really not a problem. That's fine. We're human. It happens to all of us.
True. So she said to me, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years from now? And I looked at her, and I was so ill. I was having these nosebleeds 3 to 5 times a week, and I'd lose 1.5 pints of blood every time and end up in hospital. And after a year of leaving the abuse, they just instantly stopped. And I've rarely had one ever since in the last 18 years. And I learned nosebleeds to that extent are very, very common amongst severely abused women. So it was a result of the abuse, and I had no idea. So I'm sitting there, and I looked at her and I said, I don't get it. I said, I can't think from 1 second to the next, never mind 5 to 10 years in the future. She said, I knew you would say that. She said, would you like me to tell you where you're going to be? And I looked at her and I said, I burst out laughing. I said, what? This should be good. Sure, tell me. I haven't got a clue. I didn't understand any of it. Really, I didn't. Because I'd never been in a women's shelter. I'd never had counseling in my life. I just had no idea. I was just happy to be in a safe, free environment where I could begin again. She said, okay. She said, 5 to 10 years from now, she said, you are going to become a very powerful speaker. You are going to become a leader. You are going to make a difference in the lives of millions of people, especially women on the planet. You are going to write a book that is going to change lives. And now I'm just absolutely laughing. I'm in hysterics. She starts laughing, and we laugh so loud and so hard. We're both crying with laughter that we were heard upstairs, and the CEO came down, knocked on the door, came in, and she said, is everything okay? She thought we were crying from sadness, but we were screaming with laughter. So we calmed down, and then Ilona and I, we looked at each other, and I said, you're serious, aren't you? And she's just nodding at me. She said, if you never remember anything else of your time in the women's shelter, please remember every word I've said to you today, because it's going to happen. And I never forgot, but I never had any idea. How could any of that be possible? Me? After what I just left? No way, right? So from that point, I'd got a lot of work to do on myself, but I didn't realize I was doing it till I began. Fast forward 5 years, and I was already becoming a well-known speaker. I was telling my story in groups like the Rotary Club, Probus Club. I was going into schools. Wherever somebody said, do you need a speaker? I found myself telling my story. So 5 years from that date, when we were in her office, it's December the 6th here in Canada. And it's December the 6th, always, I know it's the start of the winter, but for some reason, December the 6th, and it's also my eldest daughter's birthday, is always bitterly cold. The wind cuts through your face. There's no sunshine. And everyone is so bundled up, you don't know who's who because they've all got their masks on and everything, right?
Yeah.
And it's also a very sad day in Canada because 32 years ago, 20 women were murdered in a polytechnic in Montreal by a man who was committing femicide. He hated women, and then he turned the gun on himself. So Canadians across the country on that day commemorate the loss of those beautiful women and the potential of their lives that was stolen from our world. And here in our little community, we do this on the lake shore, right on the lake shore. And we have a special monument which is being created by a First Nations person. So they have a guest speaker, and then they read out all the names of the women that lost their lives, plus the names of the women in the community who lost their lives, including any First Nations women that are also missing, because we're bringing attention to violence and sexual abuse against women, and it has to stop. So this organization, it's called ESAV, E-S-A-V, which is End the Silence Against Violence.
Wow.
They had heard about me and I didn't know. They reached out to me and asked me if I would be the guest speaker. Absolutely, I said yes. So that day, there's about 100 people there. I'm on the back end. I'm pacing while I'm going through my mental procedure and channeling my nerves to work for me. And the wind, there was no sun. It was blinding. It was so biting into the skin.
Yeah.
It was the first time, I believe, that they had television crews there. I didn't even know television people were going to be there. And as soon as the MC gave my bio and then called me up, I went round the crowd, stepped up onto the podium, turned to face the microphone, and you could hear a pin drop. The lake just went flat, no movement. The wind subsided, no wind, and the sun shone on me on the podium.
Beautiful. What
Just
a moment to remember. Wow.
Will never, ever forget that moment. I've got goosebumps all over me. That was when I knew, aside from what I'd already been doing in that past 5 years, I knew this was the beginning of big things. So I delivered this speech.
Yeah.
When it was over, it was a standing ovation, and 2 people came running to me out of the crowd. One was the chief of police, and he was saying, can I hug you? Yeah. He said, how do you speak like that? He said, I want you to help my detectives. And then that became another story. The second person to come running out of that crowd was my counselor for women's shelter. And at the top of her voice, going, hallelujah, what did I say to you? Amen. And she just grabs me and we hug. And I was crying because I but every word she said to me thus far has come true. And then the Toastmaster people saw that in me as well. And everywhere I've gone, even now, feedback pours in, keep spreading the sunshine. And
you are a ray of sunshine.
Thank you.
And I'm thinking about, before we started this session, I asked you if we could pray. And I remember praying that, thank you, you are such a ray of sunshine. And I didn't even know the story yet. So God is obviously telling you something.
Yes, He is.
Wow.
Yes, amen.
Mandy.
I'm very grateful. Very grateful.
Amen. Amen. He's confirmed it. He's confirmed it. You're a ray of sunshine to us all. Yeah. My next question to you would be, did you love reading when you were a child?
That is a beautiful question because the answer is a 150% yes.
I thought so.
You thought so. I had to think about it while I was preparing for this, and I thought, yeah, that's true. I was always reading books. I was always in the library. I was always studying. I was fascinated with languages and people and the history of cultures, and I loved the Tudor era in the UK with King Henry VIII, and I actually built a castle. My father got me all the stuff to put all the rocks together, but I collected all the rocks, and on a big board I made this castle in Tudor form for a project and other things. I entered writing competitions in the school. I did projects on people like William Chaucer, who was a priest of the time, but he traveled all over the UK collecting stories from poets, from storytellers, from the women in the communities, like the shamans and the people that have all the stories in here from generations. And he put this all into a big project. And I won first place for what I did with William Chaucer. So, yes, reading to me was foundational for who I am and what I've become, because I also was raised in an army home. So my parents were both in the British Army. Well, my dad was sergeant in the British Army, and my mom was a WREN, a WREM, which was the Women's Royal Engineering Navy. So she was in the and it was a very disciplined, strict. He raised us like we were his soldiers. It was a harsh bringing up.
Yeah.
But even my dad recognized that I had a voice to sing. I had a voice that spoke beautiful words to people, even as a 5-year-old, even as a 7-year-old. I always remember him saying to me, "You're amazing, young Mandy. You've got a beautiful voice. Use it, use it, use it." Well, as a 5 and 7-year-old, means nothing, right? And then the person, and I'm going to just, because it feels right to share this right now. Yeah. The person who made the biggest impact in my life at the age of 7 was my father's father, my grandfather. And he is, my father was one of 11 siblings. So there was 13 in the family. And my grandfather saw 2 wars, as did my grandmother. And he also worked at Buckingham Palace. He was a footman to begin with, and then became head chef as the years went by. But anyway, my gran and my granddad saw some harsh times throughout their lives, as most people did in that era because of the 2 world wars.
Yeah.
So because of my father being in the army, we got sent all over the world. So growing up, one of the last times I saw my grandfather up to the age of 28 was when I was 7 years old. So I had no contact with him for 14 years, not by choice, but because of my father traveling the army. So I'm 7 years old, and he calls me into the parlor. Now, there's a fireplace that stands about 6 feet tall. It's got a raging fire. It's homely. It's beautiful. And he's got the big wing-back armchair sitting by the fire. He's sitting in it, and he's smoking his cigar. It's the only thing he loved. That's the only thing he ever wanted in the way of gifts, was his Cuban cigars of a special brand. Called me into the parlor. "Young Mandy, come and sit on my lap." And of course, I'm 7. I go and love my grandfather, just loved my father. And believe it or not, I had his smile. So,
wow.
His smile.
His memory lives on in you.
Yeah. And I only realized that the other day, looking at photographs. I had the thought. So, I sit on his lap and he said, okay, I'm going to put something in your hand. It's a little box and I want you to open it and take out what's inside.
Yeah.
So it's a little oval box and it literally just sat in the palm of my hand vertically. Took it, opened the box, and I took out this can. Do you know what a can of sardines looks like?
Yes, yes.
So that's what it looked like, a can of sardines with a lever on the top.
Yeah.
So I look at him and I go, but Grandad, I don't understand. What is it?
Yeah.
And he said, I'll pry back the lever for you. He said, then you have to take out what is inside the tin. So I'm all like 7 years old. Oh my gosh, what's in this tin? But my little mind is going, it's just a tin. It's ugly, right?
Yeah.
So as he peels back the lever and pulls back the lid, I smell salt water like the ocean. And the smell is horrible. And I went, oh, Grandad, what is it? And he said, pull out what's inside the water, sweetheart. And I said, but Grandad, it smells. Pull outside what's in the water. Just do it. And I looked at him and I trusted him with all my heart. And I reached in and I pulled out this oval-shaped, hard-looking rock. It was oval-shaped all the way round. It was as hard as knocking on wood. It was grey-brown, and it was the ugliest rock, so I thought, that I had ever seen. So I'm looking at this thing, and the smell, and he's now taken away the tin, but the thing smells. The rock smells. And I'm now getting frustrated as a 7-year-old, and I say, Grandad, I don't understand. I don't like it. What is it? And he said, young Mandy, this is an oyster.
Wow.
This oyster is something of great value. He said, so I'm going to pry it open. He said, the smell will get worse, which it did. I couldn't believe it. And he said, then you take your tiny finger and thumb, and I want you to reach in, all the way in, do not stop until you touch something hard. So he opens. I'm now retching at the smell. So I look away and I put my little finger and thumb in, and it's squidgy and it's gooey and I'm just gagging. It's horrible. Suddenly, I touch something hard. Oh, Grandad, he said, yes, you found it. You found it. Pull it out and bring it out to me. And I pulled out, and I still have this to this day, a very rare pearl, a very rare pearl. And this little pearl has a slightly pointed tip to it. And when you look under a magnifying glass, rainbow colors cascade from this point all the way down and around the pearl. So he puts it in my hand, and I'm looking at it. I'm fascinating because it's so pretty. It's so beautiful. And it came from that. My mind, a 7-year-old, it's not making sense. Yeah. And he said, do you want to know how the oyster made that little pearl? Yes, please, because I love stories. This is where it all comes from. Yes. I love stories. Yeah. He said, Mandy, he said, this little oyster was a living creature at one time. He said, and it sat with its mouth open on the floor of the ocean like this, with the waves, the sea wafting backwards and forwards, looking for plankton to snap shut, and that would be its food. And at some point, a grain of sand got inside the shell and lodged in the soft mantle interior. That mantle interior of the oyster is the most gentle, delicate, beautiful flesh of a sea creature. And when something abrasive, like just a tiny grain of sand gets in, it causes the oyster tremendous pain. Tremendous pain. And that creature then starts to cry. It sheds tears just like human tears. I don't know if you've ever tasted your tears when you cry, but they are
salty.
We are from the ocean and the earth. That's the composition of our whole frame, our whole body. So this little oyster it tries so hard to get the grain of sand out and cannot. And it would be like you and I standing on a cliff, enjoying a beautiful ocean view. Then the wind blows something into our eye and it's painful and we're rubbing it, it hurts and we can't get it out. So we cry because that's the body's natural way of expelling the intruder. So here's this little oyster, and over time it's cried thousands of tears, and the layers have formed around the piece of sand, little grain of sand, and formed the pearl. So he says to me, he said, this little oyster went through tremendous pain to create this great beauty. Yeah. He said, and like my counselor, many years into the future, he was the first person to say this to me. He said, I want you to remember right now, and I want you to promise me, Mandy, I want you to promise Granddad that you're going to remember what I'm about to say to you. So I'm just nodding, but I'm now anxious to get off his lap and run because okay, so we've opened it up. It's a little pearl. I'm 7. I need to go and play. But the way he spoke to me and looked into my eyes was always my cue to pay attention to what he was about to say. Yeah. So he takes the pearl off me, puts it in his hand, and he's got it there in his finger and thumb. He said, this little pearl is synonymous of your life to come. These are his exact words. I memorized that day.
Amazing.
This little pearl is synonymous of your life to come. You are going to go through a long life of tremendous pain and heartache. And at some point in the distant future, it is going to stop and it is going to turn into beauty, and you are going to become a pearl. Much after in this world.
So beautiful. So beautiful. And we've established now that you loved reading. Yes. And I can understand now the background of the love that you have for stories and for storytelling. And it leads me, because when you discuss your story, when you tell us that story, it is captivating.
Thank you.
And it leads me, it's a pleasure. It leads me to the next question where I want to ask, what is the title? Because I know if you love storytelling, if you love reading and you love speaking, you have to love poetry. You are a poet yourself, a well-celebrated poet. Which poem is your favorite? And it's a difficult question because I'm sure there is a wide variety of poems that you love. But which one is your top pick?
There is a wide range, and there's a wide range of poets like Khalil Gibran, Alfred Lord Tennyson, Robert Browning, Yeats. The list is endless. My head is always in books. I haven't had a television in over 20 years and never will I ever again, because I'm always in books and reading and writing and listening and studying. Now, you asked for one. I'm going to give you two, because these two are also foundational in my growing up years. So at the age of 11, for 2 English school projects, I had to memorize 2 poems. Now, I'm not going to, the one poem, it only has 2 verses, and I'm going to express that poem in a moment. The other poem has about 50 verses because it's a very long story, and I'm only going to give you 3 verses. And I'm going to do the poems first, and then I'm going to explain the meaning from each poem. And I hope this will answer your question.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking me. Wow, I'm just, wow. So the first poem is actually by Lord Alfred Tennyson. Alfred Lord Tennyson. He was a lord of the realm.
Oh.
And it's called The Eagle. Now, there are two spirit creatures that have followed me throughout my life. One is the eagle, and the second one is the wolf. Now, the wolf has been more dominant in my life, but the eagle is what started it at the age of 11. So this is a poem by Alfred Lord Tennyson, and it's called The Eagle. He clasped the crag with crooked hands, close to the sun in lonely lands. Ringed with the azure world he stands. The wrinkled sea beneath him crawls. He watches from his mountain walls, and like a thunderbolt he falls. That's it. That's The Eagle by Alfred Lord Tennyson. So why is it important to me? Firstly, if you think about an eagle, it has laser focus. From 2 miles into the sky, sitting on the top of a crag overlooking an ocean, the eagle has such fine, astute eyes and ability. 2 miles down, he can spot a rabbit running. And he is not distracted. He is not sidetracked by anything else. The wind, the rain, it doesn't matter what. As soon as he sees that rabbit, he is laser focused. Big lesson for all of us in never giving up. Remain laser focused on your dreams, your goals, and your passions. Do not be distracted by anything or anyone. It also taught me that there is a time and a place for everything.
Yeah.
And the scriptures, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to live, a time to cry. There's a time and a place for everything. The eagle is the only bird in the avian world that flies above storms. The only bird. The only bird. You can Google it. And I learned at the age of 11. So every time he senses a storm coming, he just rises higher and drifts on the currents of air above the storm. That taught me, like my granddad taught me, to fly high above the storms in my life. Whenever they hit me, however hard they hit me, take wing, Mandy, and fly like an eagle. And this is how I get through my storms, by rising above them. Wow. And the last one is to have the clear-sighted vision. Clear-sighted. The eagle's eyes are so powerful, so powerful. I forget the statistics, but one of the most powerful visionaries on the planet have clear-sighted vision. So that's the eagle. So I hope you can understand why I use that.
I loved it. And the way that you presented it, I mean, I was having goosebumps. I could see it in my spirit. It's amazing the way you articulated that and how you just brought that message and gave life to that poem. Thank you.
You're welcome. That is it. This is useful to me. This is what I love to do. So the second poem, it's called The Pied Piper of Hamelin, and it's by Robert Browning. Now, I'll just give you a little bit of background history on this poem. It is a folk tale from Germany, and in this one particular town, it became overrun with rats, millions of rats that were dreadful for everybody in the community. So the council and the mayor put out a notice across the country. If there is anybody that can come to our town and rid us of all these rats, we will pay 1,000 guilders. Well, the Pied Piper of Hamelin, the name of the town is Hamelin, and a Pied Piper who is a poet, a storyteller, a musician of the day. You can imagine his long hat with the bell on. and his
Yes.
upturned shoes and dancing through the countryside, singing his songs and telling his stories. He heard about this, came to the town, went to the council and said, I hear you're willing to give me 1,000 guilders if I can get rid of the rats. Yes, young sir, can you do it? Yes, I can. Then please do it and then come back for your 1,000 guilders.
Yeah.
Here is the first few verses of the Pied Piper of Hamelin. In Hamelin's town in Brunswick, by the famous Hanover city, the river Weser, deep and wide, washes its walls on the southern side. A pleasanter spot you never did spy. 'Tis here begins my ditty, almost 500 years ago, to see the townsfolk suffer so from vermin. 'Twas a pity. Rats, they fought the dogs and killed the cats and bit the babies in their cradles, made nests inside men's Sunday hats and licked the soup from the cook's own ladles, even spoiled the gentleman's chance by drowning their speaking with shrieking and squeaking in 50 different sharps and flats. That's the first 3 verses of about 50. So here we are in Hamelin, and this Pied Piper comes in and he starts to play his pipe, and it has a magical allure, and it picks up on the sound that the rats hear, and one by one from every crevice in the whole town, this herd and swarm of rats follows the Pied Piper up the hill, up the mountainside, where a door opens. He goes in, they all follow him in, except one. And it's a disabled rat. It's a disabled rat.
Oh.
And there's a significance behind it. He comes out, the door closes, he leaves the one rat there, and he goes back to the council. And there is jubilation in the town. Everybody's celebrating. All the rats have gone. We have our life back.
Yes.
So he goes to the council and he said, Sir, I did your bidding. I rid your town of all the rats. Please give me my 1,000 guilders. And the mayor and the council started to laugh at him. And they said, why, young man, yes, you have. And we are most grateful to you for ridding our town of the rats. But why should we now pay you? The rats are gone. We will not give you 1,000 guilders.
Oh, no.
So the piper says, I will ask you one more time. Will you give me your 1,000 guilders for my work? No, sir, will not. We bid you adieu. So he left the council. He went into the town, in the middle of the town, and he started play his pipe again. Only this time, every child under the age of 10 heard the music and followed him out of the town, up the inside. The door opened. He went in, and every child in the town followed him in. He came out, the door shut, bar one child who was on crutches because he was disabled. And the meaning of those two, one disabled rat and one disabled child, was so that they could take a message back to the council and people of the town. The boy would have the rat, he would go in, and he would say, and this is the meaning of the poem to me in my life.
Yes.
Very, very important. Always, always keep your word.
Yes.
Do not lie. Keep your promises. Even if you don't get a reward, keep your word. Second point is to keep your integrity to yourself, because it doesn't matter what else is going on around us in our lives.
I agree.
We have to keep our self-integrity to stay true to we are. So the third point would be to remain honest.
Always.
So that's the point
Always.
of the Pied Piper of Hamelin by Robert.
I love that. And you know, we're talking about leadership, and a part of being a leader is to always keep your integrity and to always keep your word.
Always.
And to do what you said you would do.
Yes.
To set that good example.
Yes.
There's
even
a
if
big lesson to be learned.
the truth hurts somebody, there is no such thing as a white lie. There is either a lie or a truth. There is no. So even if you have to express the truth and it hurts, stay true to who you are and be truthful.
True, because people are watching and people want to learn, and we have a responsibility as leaders to do the right thing. So those leaders in that village were acting without integrity, and they went back on their word. And this illustrates the consequences of what it would have on the person that makes that decision. We have to think of the consequences.
And put like that, which is an amazing analogy, and I'm glad you got that, because it was a whole town of people. It didn't just affect one, it affected hundreds, not thousands. So like you just said, it's not always one person that's looking or watching us. It could be 20,000 people. We never know where, who, what, or when is going to hear us or see us speak.
True.
So true.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Mandy, you recently had a health scare. Please tell us more about that and the wonderful recovery that you made.
Okay. So I'm a very giving person, as you know. Sometimes I forget my own boundaries. And self-boundaries I learned in the women's shelter. I had to learn how to be free again because I didn't know what freedom meant. And part of that is establishing self-boundaries so that we're protecting ourselves, not from being vulnerable or from attack or anything, but from overdoing things and giving so much of ourselves that we run dry and we become sick or fall ill. And this is what happened to me. This had been building up for about 6 months because I love everything that I do. I have a passion for every aspect of life. And because it just spills out of me from the second I wake up to the second I go to sleep, I sometimes forget that I'm human.
It happened.
That I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. And as humans, we are susceptible to illnesses and other things that can happen. So this is what happened to me. I knew I was becoming overly tired because I was beginning to become somewhat anxious. Every time I had to do something, I could do it 150% and nobody would know any different. But in here, I was screaming because I didn't need to be doing that because my body was saying you need rest. So my body has a remarkable way, as does every person's body, only many people don't recognize it. Our body has a divinely given way of telling us, warning us that if you don't listen to what I'm saying, I will take you down.
True.
And my took me down 6 weeks ago. I was getting ready to go and sing at a farmer's market with some friends of mine. 8 o'clock in the morning, something said to me, lie down. And I fortunately was in the bathroom. I went into my bedroom and I didn't lay head to toe. I lay across the bed and I fell asleep thinking I just needed a nap. The medical people tell me I was actually unconscious for 24 hours. I had no recollection of anything.
Oh, goodness.
My body didn't generate me to go to the washroom. It didn't generate me to drink liquid, eat food. I was out. And when I came round in the middle of the night the next day, my heart was in atrial fibrillation, and it was boom, 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 boom. 9 hours I lay there on the bed. So almost 30 hours laying on that bed. I couldn't move because I was so weak, because the adrenaline from the heart pounding had exhausted me. And when I finally got medical help, they told me that I had exhausted my body beyond its natural abilities.
Oh.
And the first thing that happens is that I had become dehydrated. And whenever we drink water, the first place that water goes to is to the muscles of the heart. Because medically, because the heart has to pump the blood all around the body to create oxygen, every cell, tissue, brain funk, everything. Without the heart, people will often say, without the brain, we're dead. No, without the heart, we're dead. So my body had gone into protective means. So it was saving the heart muscle, which was completely dehydrated because I hadn't drunk in over 30 hours. And
long time.
What put it in atrial fibrillation? It is a condition called hyperkylemia, and it can happen to anyone. And when you reach the age of 50, for every year past 50, the increase and the potential to have hyperkylemia increases drastically. Here I was, just turned 60, and boom, it took me down. So I spent almost 3 weeks totally incapacitated here at home, mostly bedridden or on the couch. I had no energy. I was sad because I wasn't doing what I love to do, which is always to serve other people. But it was a wake-up call. One thing saved me. One thing saved me. And this is the wake-up call that has profoundly affected me ever since. I have to take a high blood pressure medication. And the doctor told me that had I not been on that blood pressure medication, I would not have awoken from the unconsciousness. I would have died in that state.
That is so scary. And I thank God for bringing you here, because look how you've recovered. You are back to yourself.
I'm stronger.
And you're laughing.
Yes.
And I see all your beautiful posts on Facebook, and it just makes my heart so glad to see that you are restored in your health. But it is, love you, it is a wake-up call for all of us.
It is.
Because we all overwork. We do that.
Yes.
Most of the time we don't keep tabs on what you should do. And that's why books like Jose Escobar's book of the morning and the evening routine, those books are critical for leaders, because it helps us to structure our time and our thoughts and our tasks.
Yes.
And I'm just glad to see that you are here. My heart is so happy.
Thank you.
And it brings me to the next. Yes.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I actually did the evening and morning routine program with him for 8 weeks.
Did you?
It was phenomenal.
Fantastic.
If I don't know if you're thinking about it, if you are, let me know first. Let me know first. Just saying.
I am actually thinking about that because I need that structure.
Well, you've got a living example here of how, and Jose will tell you, I absolutely smashed that course.
Fantastic.
And it's incredible. But I will tell you one thing. It's a program that he has. For every person that we recommend who takes up the evening and morning routine program, there is an affiliate fee that he will pay to you. So if you will allow me, and you are ready to recommend you to him, that's an opportunity for me.
I love that. Wow. In essence, we are here to help each other, are we not? So that's fantastic. I would love to do that with you. Yes.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. See? I had no idea this was all going to come out.
Yeah, no, he made such an impression on me. Just the way that the book is structured and what is said in there. And yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Okay. I will get in touch with him, and then I will set you up with him, and then it's up to you two.
100%. I'm at the moment busy with my own 75 hard version, not the 75 hard of Rahul Marine and the one, but my own version that fits into my hours and lifestyle. So as soon as that is finished, I will have time to get into that morning and evening routine. So I'll keep you up to date.
Awesome. I look forward to it. And let me know how the one that you are doing goes. I'd love to know how you do with that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I feel much better. I have more energy. I've lost about one size in my clothing. And it's good. It's good for me. The reading is very good for me. It helps me to focus. And I do a lot of journaling. Yeah. So I told Rahul Marine, as soon as I'm done with this one, I'll start the Hungry Wolf 35 with him, because I'm still finishing this one. Yeah. So it's a journey.
I lost 17 pounds in that 8 weeks doing Jose's course. You think the 75 hard is a tough go?
Yeah.
I was an athlete growing up. I was an unbeatable runner, and I was heading for the Olympics. That's how good I was. I was unbeatable. I was one of the fastest women on the planet at the age of 17, 10.8 seconds, 100 meters.
Fantastic.
And I was headed for the Olympics. But anyway, the training to be an athlete like I went through, I used to train with carrying a person on my back. And this goes back to the Roman times when they put another person on their back and made them train the whole time. So I attribute a lot of my speed to that, because when I wasn't training and I'm now competing, there's nobody on my back and I just go like the wind.
Wow.
But it was a hard, intense training. And I thought I would never, ever go through such a hard, intense training again as that. This 8-week course with Jose will break you. It will make you cry. It will make you get back up. It will encourage you. It will inspire you. And by the time you've finished, your life has completely done a revolution in a great positive way. So I'm just experience.
Well, that brings us to the next question, because I believe that leaders have to develop personally and professionally in a continuous manner. And self-leadership, to me, is very important in leadership. And I bring this question to you. What is your description of self-leadership?
It all begins with me, my life, my choices, my decisions, whether I get up in the morning and clean my teeth, whether I go to work and do a job. Literally every aspect of my life begins with me. Not you, not the billions of people on this planet. It begins with me. So if I want to lead other people, and as I said to you, I just evolved into this role. It became a natural role for me. I knew along the way that I would have to learn things. I would have to grow. I would have to gain experience. I would have to experience tears and joy, wins and losses, not failures, because there is no such thing as a failure. No such thing as a failure. We either win or we learn the lesson. That's why I say loss. So you can imagine coming out of an abused relationship, as I described earlier, that for me to step into a leadership role would take courage.
Yeah.
And first of all, it would be the courage for myself to step into my own power and begin to learn and begin to grow through study and experience. What type of study? Autobiographies. People who have spoken on big platforms and have thousands of followers and have a great message. So Dr. Wayne Dyer, Brendan Burchard, Louise Hay, Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, Gary Tucker.
Yeah.
Wayne Dyer is still my number one mentor to this day. I was actually listening to a 2-hour podcast at 5 a.m. yesterday morning. It was sitting out here on the deck with the dawn callers, watching the dawn come up, listening to his words right from Maui. It was beautiful. So that's the first thing about self-leadership, learning from other people by stepping into your own courage and power to grow and to learn. What does it then take? Well, any good leader or any goal that you want to achieve doesn't happen overnight. And I use the example of my body. If I cut my finger, it's going to bleed because I've cut through 7 layers of skin. Going to clean it up, maybe put some antiseptic on it, and then I'm going to put a Band-Aid over it.
Yes.
And what am I hoping for? I'm hoping for heal, right?
Yes.
Now, I put it on right now. Do I wake up tomorrow morning and say, oh, great, I can take the Band-Aid off, it's healed?
No.
Depends on the depth and the angle of the cut, but it could take days, maybe some weeks to heal. And the body has to replenish 7 layers of skin being brought back together and sealed, and the wound has to stop bleeding. It takes time. So my body is persistent and committed to heal my finger.
Yeah.
This is where leadership
I like that.
comes in. It takes persistence through self-growth. It takes commitment, never giving up until you reach the goal, and then you just carry on, actually. So there's never giving up. But as with the cut on the finger, you could lose your persistence. You could lose your commitment because of the pain that it's causing.
The process is hard. Yeah.
When the going gets tough, the tough get going. The body is tough. It is designed to heal itself. It does not quit. It stays committed and it stays persistent until the healing is done. That is key in self-leadership.
I love that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So the third of 4 points here that have always stood out to me. Why do I want to be a leader? Why do I want to serve and help other people? I have multiple reasons. Many people have helped me along the way, and I journal everything. I have journals going back all through my abusive marriage, all the way back to my childhood, which are now forming my story, my autobiography, which will be one of my books coming out. So being a leader every day, not once a week, not once a month, not once a year, every single day, I get up, and after doing my meditation and gratitude and everything I do to connect me to God energy, I say to myself, looking in the mirror, Mandy, what is your why? What is your why? Remind me, Mandy, why you do what you do. Never, ever, ever lose sight. Like the eagle, laser-focused vision. His why was his next meal. And if he got distracted, he'd lose his meal and he wouldn't eat. So my why keeps me going. It keeps me laser-focused, and I never, ever give up. Giving up is not in my vocabulary, and anybody that knows me will have It is not in my vocabulary, and never will it be. And my motto, when I take my last breath, and I'm having it put on my gravestone, this is my motto: she skidded into her grave shouting, "What a hell of a ride!"
I love that. I love that.
It's in my will. I want that on my gravestone, because that's what I never give up.
Yes.
And the fourth point is to be adamant about saying yes to life. And I'm asking you to pause there. Yes to life. Why? Life is like a roller coaster. It has some highs, lots of joy, fun and excitement, celebration. Then it drops down into the valley and the going gets tough and we have pain and heartache and suffering and devastation. But guess what? Then life picks back up and the next thing we're celebrating again. It is the cercle la vie. In French, the circle of life. And it is ever revolving around and around. So to say yes to the celebrations, but no to the struggles, don't connect. There is no coincision. It's impossible. Saying yes to life, you are saying yes to everything that life presents to you. Accepting it, being aware of it, then having trust and faith and taking action to move through it. And obviously, when things are presented to us in life, be it humans or events, we always have two choices. And this is the second part of the fourth point. And I made this up myself because it's so pertinent. And I finish every live that I do with this.
Yeah.
If a struggle or a pain or strife or anger, somebody's angry at you and they're coming towards you, life gives us two choices, only two. You can either react with like anger and adding fuels to the fire, making it all out of control, and then it's 1,000,000 times worse than what it was when it first came to you. Or you can pause, you can step back, you can take a deep breath, bring yourself back to grounding, and ask yourself, what would love do next?
I love that.
What would love do next? Because if I'm coming from a place of love and kindness, then I am responding to life with understanding and compassion.
Yeah.
And I cannot do that unless I first have self-love to give out. In every scenario, ask yourself, what would love do next? And if love wouldn't shout, if love wouldn't be unkind, if love wouldn't set fire to a building or be a robber in a bank, then don't give that out to the people in front of you. Give them love every time.
Absolutely true. I agree with you 100%. And, you know, that explains to me also the way that you lead.
Yes.
My next question was going to be, what leadership style do you feel comfortable using? And how does that differ, you know, from situation to situation? And I can see that you lead with love. Yeah.
Yes. Everything is, as
Yeah.
we would season a dish with salt and spices, from here, in the depth of our soul, let love be the spice or the salt that seasons the life in front of us for self and other people.
Yeah.
So leadership styles, I'm what's known as a rebel on many levels. I'm a good rebel.
A good rebel in the positive sense of the word.
Yes, got it. You got it. People say, for example,
an innovator.
for example, as the town crier, I never was going to use traditional garb because it's all male. I wanted to be female and I wanted to dress like a Victorian lady. So they curve and they bow. They don't take. So I go against the grain. And in leadership, everything I do comes from a place of love. That's all there is to it. It comes from a place. But technology has its place.
Yeah.
People do PowerPoints and put photographs and things up on a screen when they're doing a speech or whatever. I've never done that. The only thing I've ever done is make a drawing. I've drawn the point I want to make. So, for example, when I was trying to show people that I'd come from 30 years of abuse and nearly died many times, I drew a red heart, zigzagged at the middle, that was broken open, and blood pouring into a pool at the bottom. This is all a diagram. I could show you the drawing. I still have it. And at the top, it was ice. There was ice all around everything. And it simply said, love in a very cold climate. Heartbroken in a very cold climate. So that's the only time I will use a visual, is maybe it's something I've drawn, or maybe it's one of my books or whatever it is. Otherwise, I am the visual. I like to connect audience.
Yes.
I like to present and bring you into my story. I can't do that if I'm looking at a PowerPoint and doing this, and you're losing track of me and you're not connecting. Oh, yes, that's a nice picture. What was she trying to say? For me, it doesn't work. For some people, it does. I do sign language for the deaf, and it involves your whole body language because they tell. So I need to be visually engaged. So I can be at the front of 500 people. So the first, let's say, 20 rows of people see and hear me, feel connected. How do I connect to 500 rows back there? I'll look to the back of the room and I'll focus on one person and I'll say my point, and then I'll move across and I'll say another point over here, move across and say another point over there. And at each of those 3 points, everyone in those sections think I'm speaking directly to them.
Yes, and they want that. They want that, especially in teamwork. They want you present in the moment, concerned with not only the project, but with their lives, what they are like, what they are going through, what they want to plan to do one day. That is leadership, to be present, to be involved. I love that, the way you describe that.
Yes, thank you.
They don't want to sit and look at the screen. They want you. They want to hear you and feel you.
Yes.
See you.
Goosebumps. Yes. They want your inspiration, and they want to know that when they leave that audience, they've got a plan of action up here. Even if it's 1 point, I'm going to do this because I was so moved or so inspired, and she said it in such a way. I've written it down, and this is what I'm going to do. Move them to action. Right?
Awesome.
So, looking at the time here. So, so I through the story, and obviously it depends on who the audience is. If it's a kindergarten class, then it's going to be a fairy story-like setting. If it's an adult audience in a corporation, then I'm going to be the pro. Right?
Wonderful. So you meet them on their leadership level. I love that. Fantastic.
You got it.
And see leadership in little children.
Yes.
It's not only to say that they have to be a certain age. They can be children, and they can be leaders and visionaries as well. I always say to the people I work with, even the youngsters, they're not only learning from me, I'm learning from them every day.
Yeah. Jesus said, unless you become like a child, you cannot enter the kingdom of God. They are so humble. They are so unspoiled. They have no inhibitions. They don't see black and white. They don't see color. They don't see race. They don't see wealth. They see each other's hearts. And if they do upset each other, they say sorry, and it's gone and done, and it's back to play.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
Beautiful, beautiful hearts that teach us a great deal. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mandy, we have a few more questions left.
Okay.
Firstly, I want to hear which project or projects are you currently working on? I just want to be sensitive to the time, as you said. So in a nutshell, which projects are you currently working on? We would love to know.
Okay. So for those of you that know me, I have a show on a Wednesday evening at 8:45. I take one poem and one photograph. We are at week 27 this Wednesday, and there are 52 poems in here, so we're halfway through. So I'm already creating a second book of poetry because people are asking me to keep it going when the next 6 months is up. So that's the first thing I've got on the go. I am attending a book fair at the library. They asked me to attend. They want me to read from my book and highlight it, and they've asked me to else with me. So I'm also constructing a 16-month calendar, which I'm going to have on for
lovely.
So that'll be one photograph with maybe just a couple of lines of poetry under each one. What are we doing? I'm getting new speaking opportunities. I've also been reached out for some more co-authorships. 2 of them I've already accepted. I have an idea for a town crier sponsorship gig, which will enable me to create and draw in funds for the Multiple Sclerosis Society. So that is a big project that I'm working on to gain sponsors to help me raise funds. So that's what's on the go.
I love that. And you are making such a lovely importation into community upliftment in your area, and that is what the Meticulous Moments is about, community upliftment through leadership development. So I see you actively working on yourself personally. I see you working on your, on your professional life, and I see you taking that ray of sunshine that we dubbed you. We're taking that and just making a wonderful difference in the community, and I love that, and I'm so proud of you. Absolutely proud of you.
I will say one thing to add to that. Because I'm a well-renowned poet, a friend reached out to me. Her father is about to pass away. Oh. And she'd written a poem and she wanted me to read it and give her my feedback, so I did. And then I offered her one of the poems out of Catalyst Poetry, which I wrote to another friend at the death of his best friend 3 days after he lost him. And I said, would you like me to read that to you? And she said, would you record it and send it to me so that I've got it forever to keep going back? So when I came in out of the dusk this morning and I saw that, I made the recording, I sent it to her, and that's also a part of me encouraging and giving back to people.
I love that, and that's something that will stay with her forever, and that's in essence true leadership. With your friends and family and colleagues, just being there for them, and just showing the way. Sometimes people just need to be shown the way. Sometimes they just need that person next to them, holding their hand, doing something, not just being there.
Being there.
Also leadership. Yeah.
All it needs. And for everything, like I said, it always comes from a place of love. But the other greatest gift that I have, and it's a gift that every single human being that's ever been born is given at birth. It is the gift of intuition. Now, a woman's intuition is way stronger than a man's for multiple reasons. We won't get into it. But when I'm coming from a place of love, I'm also coming from the stirrings of my intuition. You know what, Juanita? The times that I ignore my intuition, which is one of the reasons I got into an abusive marriage in the first place, was because I ignored my instincts and the red flags. Then I get into trouble. Every time I listen to this God-given lifeblood flowing throughout my veins, I am blessed, I am given more abundance, and I see people come to life and shine because of how I've been towards them. So that is a huge gift, and we must all hone that skill. Listen to your God-given intuition.
Agreed. I couldn't agree with you more. I have two more questions for you. The one is, tell the audience about alpha she-wolf and lioness. And the other one would be, what are your final words of wisdom for the audience?
This is priceless, because you, as you well know, you and I were speaking because you connected with me to come and do this podcast, I think, whatever it is you're doing for you.
Yeah.
And I was asking you if you'd seen one of my posts recently on a lioness, and you said your eyes tweaked up and you said, no, I haven't, but you were actually listening. So I went and found it on Facebook, and I spoke to you about the awareness of living in the present moment.
Yes.
The example of a lioness to illustrate this. She has to be still. She has to blend in with her background. She has to be silent and move stealthily. She has to be patient and have much desire and focus, because she's honing in on her next meal. And she has to come at one with the energy of that next meal. So if it's an antelope, she'll follow it, she'll watch it, she'll engage its moves. And when the timing is right and the energy is connected, she becomes one with the antelope. And 9 times out of 10, she strikes and she feeds her, or she feeds her pride. This is called being in the present moment. And that's when you said to me, are you a prophet? Yeah. And I looked at you and I said, why would you say that? Do you remember?
I do.
Because you have just said everything that represents me as a lioness. And you said to me, how did you know that? And I told you afterwards, long after, that week, 6 different people asked me if I was either a prophet, divine, was I a woman of God? And I've had all these people now connecting with me to listen to sage teaching. So that's the story of the lioness.
I love that.
It is. There is more to it than that, but for time, I just...
Yes.
As for the she-wolf,
yes.
the alpha, I'm not just a she-wolf. This is my second spirit. Remember, I told you I have 2 spirit guides. One is the eagle, and the dominant one is the alpha she-wolf.
Wow.
It's just amazing that in the last at least 10 years, the alpha she-wolf in me has come out. And she is now at the head of the pack. And I'm not putting myself in any group or with any, I'm talking figuratively here. I am at the head of the pack. I have the vision. I have the aggression, but it's a directed aggression. I have leadership. I have the discipline. I have all the aspects of the alpha she-wolf to lead with the alpha male, guide the pack, protect the pack, look after the young ones and teach them how to become wolves themselves. I have all those skills in me, and I have honed them almost to perfection. And that is not both. That is not egotistical. That is fact, because I am told it every single day. And because I have this ability to cast this umbrella over the pack, over all the people who come into my presence, they find kindness, they find love, they find discipline, they find structure, they find opportunities to see how they can grow into the pride of life. And it's a very, very powerful, impacting role to have. And again, I thank God for it, because I'm blessed with it. And I've now accepted it. I didn't accept it for a while. I felt too puny as a human and too humble. I'm not worthy of this role. Well, yes, Mandy, God has
You are.
said you are worthy of this role, and you will take this role and you will make a huge difference. And how many people said that throughout my life? So amen. Thank you. So final words of encouragement.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I might be reading it from a little list here, but again, for time. Take the
Yes.
time to learn about your inner being, your purpose and your passion. What makes you feel alive? Follow the dreams, fulfill your purpose, but have fun along the journey. Life is meant to be enjoyed. If there are some down moments, accept them as down moments and know that you can always rise and rise again, and the joy and the laughter will come back. Always come from a place of love. Remember, winners never quit, quitters never win. Never give up. Remember, you are loved, you are loved, you are worthy, you are deserving. And the most important point here of all of it, I've not spoken about it, but I'm going to speak about it right now. It is one thing to have a belief. You can believe that black is black and white is white. I might tell you that it's not, but if that's your belief, that's your belief. What is important is your values. What do you value? Because if you value something strong enough, that will govern beliefs around it. Values grow stronger. And the final point, always, always, always forget the future, forget the past, get into the present moment, because this is where life unfolds. This is where God energy exists and the magic of being alive happens. There is no future. There is no past. There is only right here, right now, with you and with me.
Amen. And with that, I just want to say thank you for a wonderful session once again. You are such an inspiration to us, Mandy. You are such a strong leader, and we cheer you on as the alpha she-wolf. And yes, you are strong enough and you are deserving of that role. And thank you for the impact that you make in our lives. And we just want you, I want you to know that we appreciate you and that you are just making a big difference in your community and in society. And never forget how special you are. So from Meticulous Moments to you, thank you very, very much for joining.
And from my heart to you and to all your listeners who come across this, I am most grateful for being here, for the pleasure of your beautiful company and your guidance through it, and the ability to reach out into the community through your platform of Meticulous Moments. Thank you so much. Namaste. God bless. And I love and hug you.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you very much. And for all the listeners, thank you so much for joining us. We're seeing you soon, and I'm sure we'll be back with another session in the future.
Look forward to it.
I'll be sharing Mandy's details at the end of the session. Network with her, reach out to her, and let's just all cheer her on this wonderful journey. Have a lovely evening, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.